Hi, I am Ajay Banerjee, Deputy Editor with the Tribune at New Delhi. We are discussing an important aspect of how the closure of Strait of Hormuz again by the Iranians yesterday has impacted Indian shipping. Yesterday, that is on Saturday, the two Indian cargo vessels carrying crude oil from the Persian Gulf exiting the Strait of Hormuz were fired upon by the Iranian Navy. One of the ships, in a publicly made in a transcript which has been made public of a audio conversation between the captain of the ship and the Iranian Navy, is now available on social media. One of the captain of the ship says clearly that you had cleared me to pass the Strait of Hormuz. Why are you firing at me? And the Iranian Navy says no, turn back, and the ship turns back. This incident happened on Saturday morning in the Straits of Hormuz, and by the evening, the Iranian ambassador had been summoned to the Ministry of External Affairs, where Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri expressed his displeasure at the firing incident on Indian ships. Meanwhile, the Iranians have said that they have closed the Straits of Hormuz again in retaliation to America conducting, or US Navy conducting, a blockade of Iranian ports just east of the Straits of Hormuz. The US, since Monday evening 7:30 p.m. Indian time, has been conducting a blockade of all Iranian ports. That means all shipping going to Iran and exiting Iran is being blocked by the US. Last night, the US Central Command, or the CENTCOM as it's called by the US, issued numbers that around 19 ships have so far been turned back, and they have complied with the US instructions of turning back. That means the US Navy, with all its might and force, around 10,000 sailors have been put into force, and around 12 a dozen warships are there, and more planes and UAVs are keeping an eye. The US Navy at sea communicates through the Channel 16, which is the open channel of communication between ships at sea, and guides the ships entering or exiting Iranian ports to turn back, because that is the blockade they say they are enforcing since Monday 7:30 p.m. Indian time, as I told you. Iranians in retaliation have backed out of any deal of opening the Hormuz, which they opened on Friday evening around 6 p.m. Indian time, and have said they are closing it again because the US Navy is continuing with its blockade. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has threatened Iran with bombing again if the peace deal is not signed by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends. Now, these are testing times, a massive crisis. Indian Navy has a kind of a escort flotilla floating around in the Gulf of Oman. It's called Operation Sankalp, and around 8 naval ships besides UAVs and planes are pressed into service for escorting Indian vessels. Today, as we speak on Sunday, one of the Indian crude oil tankers, Desh Garima, is being escorted out by the Indian Navy from the Gulf of Oman. Coming back to what has happened in the Straits of Hormuz is a telling reminder for India, because Iran and India were very close in the past few days. The Iranians have been speaking highly of the help India did in giving shelter to the sailors, and also in sending relief supplies to Iran's medical supplies to the Red Crescent Society. This is a turnaround for India, because Indian ships were being allowed to pass by the Iranians through the Hormuz. With the Hormuz closed again, India now looks askance, because around 20% of the world's crude oil supplies pass through the Straits of Hormuz. India is comfortable with crude oil supplies from other sources. It is still tying up LPG supplies from other sources around the world at the moment. But still, as the government has imposed some restrictions on LPG bookings on the commercial sector and also on the residential sector, there is a gap which they have introduced when a person can book. LPG supplies has smoothened out since the first week of March, but still the government is careful and watchful and asked people to switch to PNG. India's coming back to the shooting incident on Saturday. India is at the moment has not responded, other than Vikram Misri saying, summoning the ambassador. There is no word officially that what had happened, how was the damage to the ships, if any, if there was any damage to the ships, and if since the Navy is on the east of the Hormuz, I must clarify to the viewers and listeners, the Indian Navy's in this Operation Sankalp is located east of the Hormuz. These incidents are happening west of the Hormuz, that means inside the Persian Gulf. Indian Navy is just east of it in the Gulf of Oman. The US Navy is also in the Gulf of Oman, blocking Iranian ports. These are two separate flotillas. Indian Navy has got nothing to do with the blockade of the Iranian ports. It is just escorting Indian mercantile vessels out of the Gulf. Like as I told you today, Desh Garima, a crude oil tanker, is being escorted out by the Indian Navy as we speak. And we will keep on updating you the story, with me is Tribune photographer Mukesh Agarwal.